Hello and welcome to the fifth episode of this podcast. In the last episode, as you remember, we was talking about the components and about the communication between components, different types of communication and sharing data between components. Also, we was talking about the Docker. And that was the theory. Today we will practice it. We will start building our application and our components in Nuxt 3. In the backend section, we will install the Docker on our computers, and I will show you how easy it is to install the Docker on your computer, and then you will be ready to use it with your projects. At the end, in the summary and the project management section, I start discuss about the resources in the project and the resources that every project manager has to manage. So enjoy this episode and let's start. Before we will go to the next section, I have a small request for those who never used Nuxt 3 framework. Please go to the nuxt.com website and then in the menu on the top choose Docs and then Guide. Here in the menu on the left you have option Directory Structure. And in the next section we will use the Components folder where you will find the information about the components and the pages. And if you want to feel more comfortable, please read at least about these two folders. First, let's delete this Nuxt welcome component. We don't need it, and let's create our first page in our application. That will be our working area for now. So in the folder pages, create the file index.view. That's our home page of the application, and then write a template with anything. I type a typical hello world in this page. As you see, we have nothing in our application, just an error. That's absolutely normal situation, and to generate the websites and to generate pages in our application, the pages we are creating in pages directory, we need to use the special Nuxt 3 component. It calls Nuxt page. This component is responsible for generating the websites and the content which will be displayed in the internet browser. So in the main app view file, just put the Nuxt page component and that's it. After saving the changes and refresh the internet browser, you will see our application and our page Hello World. Absolutely short and quick side note here. The pages directory in Nuxt 3 framework, this is the special directory where we put the whole pages, and which is responsible with the Nuxt page component. This folder is responsible to create the whole routing for our application and the whole pages. So we have a special directories in the Nuxt 3 framework other than pages. I will discuss it later when we will start using it. Of course, you can go to Nuxt 3 documentation now if you can't wait, and you can read about the directories and the structure of Nuxt 3 framework now. But okay, let's go back to our application and let's play with the components. The last thing I have to mention is the modules section in Nuxt 3. We have a lot of modules in Nuxt 3. We will install some of them, but for now I will install only the Tailwind CSS module. Tailwind, as you can find in the internet, this is the CSS framework, very useful, and if you didn't use it before and you don't know it, don't worry, we will use it and I will explain how to play with the Tailwind. It's an optional, but I think this is something I recommend you to use in your application, and you will see how easy it is to use this Tailwind framework, and how easy it is to create the very modern pages with this framework. So to add this Tailwind module to Nuxt 3 application, we just need to add this with yarn and with the command yarn add --dev nuxt.js Tailwind CSS. We can copy it and paste in the our terminal window, and then after a few seconds we will have Tailwind CSS in the Node modules folder. As you see, our package.json file is now with the Tailwind CSS dependency, and we can use it. We have installed it, so copy this modules section from the website and paste it to the nuxt.config.ts file. That's it. Now we can use and play with Tailwind. As you see, after running this application, now we have something more, and we can go to our localhost app slash underscore and Tailwind CSS. This is the Tailwind CSS page, the special page where you can see the whole classes you can now use in your templates, in your HTML components. It's absolutely huge bunch of classes, and we will use them. As you see, they are absolutely clear and understandable, and I think you don't have to even know the whole classes and the whole classes names because they are mostly correspond with the property with the CSS property name, and you will see it in action in a few seconds. So let's get our hands dirty and let's start with these components and the communication between parent and the child component. A quick lesson about Tailwind. As you see, if we add a few classes, p-8, text red at 800 and the text center, this will center our text, and it adds a small padding. I mean the p-8, this is the padding class, and you can use p-4, p-20, p-0, whatever you want. And you will see how easy it is to use this in creating our application. Text red 800, this means that the text will be red. The bigger number you will give in this class name, the darker color you will have. So you can use text red 100, what is really light red color. Text red 200, 3, 4, 800, just like we used. I think the text red 900, that's the maximum. And the last class text center, it's nothing to say here. It's just center the text in the div container. So as you see, Tailwind is absolutely easy to use. As you see here, we have a small warning. No utility classes were detected in your source files, and so on. It was caused because when we started the development server a few seconds ago, there was no any Tailwind classes. If you don't like it, just like me, I don't like the warnings. I don't like errors as well. Just restart the development server, press Ctrl+C, and then yarn dev. That's enough, and we will have the application up and running without any warnings and errors. Errors will occur, I think, in a few minutes. As you remember, in our assumptions, we have a parent component and two child components. In parent components, you can set if the child is spinning or the child skin color. So let's create these components in our application. First, let's create the components folder. This is one of the special folder in the Nuxt free applications, and this is the place where you store the whole components are being used by the application. The Nuxt just scan this folder and search for the components, and that's why you don't have to import each one of them when you are using them. So first the parent component, and we create the file parent.view, and in the template section just type parent component. The same with the child. In a file child.view, just type child component, and let's try to use them. Let's add some classes to these elements. First, in the parent component, I will set the background for the parent div as a blue with the class bg-blue-400. That's the light blue color. Margin -m-8 is the class for margin, and the padding with p-4. Also, let's add some rounded corners for this component, for this div, with the class rounded. And the similar changes in the child component. With div for the child component, let's add class rounded with the rounded corners, and padding the same as in parent component, padding -4. That's all for the child component, because the skin color we will pass via props, and we will do it in a few seconds. Okay, so in the file pages index.view, let's delete this hello world text and put our components in the structure as we expected to see them. So we have the parent component, and inside this parent component we have two child components. After saving the file, as you see, we see only the parent component. So where are the childs? It's a good time to make a small pause here and to make some explanations, especially for those who just start with the front-end programming. As you see, we write something what may look a little bit strange for you. We just start with the parent component. We open this tag. Then we put the two child elements, two child components inside this parent, and then we close the tag parent. So in our case, we have a parent component, and we try to pass two childs into this parent component. But the problem is that our parent component just doesn't know what to do with these two childs. I mean, imagine we have the parent component with some a little bit more complicated structure. We have the heading h1 with some text, and we have a table inside this parent component, and we are pushing them to also two childs component. What to do with these two childs? We should put them at the beginning, at the end. That's something what parent component just doesn't know. And here we can use something special in Vue.js. We can use the slot. So the slot is the place where Vue.js will take the whole content you put in between the opening and the closing component tag, and it will put everything what you have there in the slot. That's why when you put the slot in the parent component, the child's elements, the child's component appear, and we can see the child's now in our parent component. But this is the option number one. We can use the slot. Moreover, the slots can be multiple in the one component, and yes, we will use many slots in one component in the future, in the next episodes. But as I said, that's the approach number one. The second approach is to place child components in parent component, just like here. So in this case, the child components will be rendered regardless of what is passed in the index view. In fact, in index view, we are just putting a parent component, which have child components inside of him. So, as you see, we have two approaches we can use in building the nested component. And what is better, using the slots or building the components from the smaller components and make a more complex components at the end? Well, I think it depends. It depends, as always, on our requirements. It depends on our needs. When to use slots? I think, well, if we have a dynamic content in our component, and the parent component is to be dynamically determined, slots are the ideal solution. And they allow us to flexibly pass content into the parent component. That's also why we use this kind of components with slots in reusable components, like for example the card component. This is I think the most common component with the slot. When to put child components directly in parent component? I think if we have a structure of the child components in parent which is fixed and unchangeable, we can put directly these child components into the parent, what may simplify our application code. And in our case, that's the reason why we will use this approach, and why I will put the child components inside the parent component instead of the approach where we could use slots. And don't worry, we will use slots, and even if you don't feel this now, you will understand it very deeply, because using slots, and we can use multiple slots in components, is something what we will use very often. Okay, so let's make changes and adjust our application to our needs. In the file index.view, let's remove our current structure and just leave here a parent component. In a parent component, in a file components slash parent.view, remove the slot element and add two child elements just below the header with the component name. We can also put the child components into div with class flex to place them nicely one next to each other. Let's also add some gap between these components with the class gap dash and number, and the top margin with class empty-8. Empty stands for margin top. That's all what we need to change in parent component. Now in a child component, at the beginning, let's just leave a rounded class to these div elements, and this will generate the div with nicely rounded corners. But for now, we can't see it because child has a transparent background. It will change in a while, but for now we see only the text child component, and that's okay. Okay, let's now set our first property in a child component, and at the top of the child view file, just add our JavaScript section, or to be more precisely, our TypeScript section, what we define by adding attribute lang equal ts. To define our skin color prop in Nuxt 3, we can use the define props function, just like you see here. And okay, let's make a small pause here, and I will explain this part of code I wrote. At first, as you see, we typed script setup. Script setup is a syntax introduced in Vue 3 that simplifies the use of the composition API. It allows direct declaration of variables, properties, and the functions without the need to export a default object. Two main differences between script setup lang ts and the traditional script. That's, in my opinion, simplicity and readability. Script setup automatically set up the code in setup mode, eliminating the need to use setup and manually exports variables. This makes the code more concise and easier to read. Better integration with TypeScript. With direct support for TypeScript, script setup lang ts allows you to more easily types and take advantages of TypeScript without additional configuration. And yes, it's very useful. Now, let's see the difference between the traditional approach and the composition API. This code, as you see, this code represents the same component. And Yes, as you see, by using Composition API, we can achieve the same effect with much less code. With the code which is much more readable. That's one of the reason, yes, one of the reason why I strongly recommend using Composition API with script setup instead of traditional script. And in addition, with TypeScript, by adding attribute lang ts, we can use the whole capabilities, the whole beautiful things we can do with TypeScript. And I will show you in a while why using TypeScript is something what I think I miss in Python. Okay, we can declare the types in Python now, but it's not a mandatory. And in my humble opinion, it should be. Okay, I think that's enough for today for a front-end application. Now let's talk for a while about the backend. As you remember, I was mentioned about it in the last episode that our episodes will be a little bit shorter, and I will split the knowledge in the smaller chunks. So, in today's backend section, we will talk about Docker, and we will install Docker and Docker Compose. For this episode, I have removed Docker and Docker Compose on my computer, so you should have absolutely same behavior as you see on this video. If you type docker -- version, you have the information that Docker not found. That's of course obvious. And then you have the few suggestions that you can install Docker with some scripts like sudo snap install docker or apt install docker.io, etc. I have never used these scripts, and in these episodes we will go with the more standard approach, and yes, we will start with Firefox and type ubuntu install docker. As you see, the first link leads us to the website with the instructions of how to install Docker on Ubuntu, and it's an official Docker documentation. I think this is a good point to start. The installation instructions for Docker may look a little bit complicated, may look a little bit complex, especially for those who never used Ubuntu or other Linux operating system. But in fact, it's absolutely super easy. As you see, and if you read them carefully, step by step, you will see that in fact it's just a few commands you have to put into the terminal, and everything will be done automatically. So the first command is to remove the potential conflicting packages. I am pretty sure you don't have these packages, but just in case, let's copy it and paste to the terminal and hit the enter. As you remember, we are pasting the commands into the terminal by Ctrl plus Shift plus V. After removing these potential conflicting packages, we can now install the Docker on our computer. So in the section installation methods, you will find a few methods how to install Docker. All of them are pretty well described, and you can choose one of them, or you can go with me. I'm using the installation of Docker with apt repository. And as you see, everything you have to do is to copy this bunch of code and paste it to the terminal and then hit enter. That's absolutely everything you have to do. Okay, this code looks a little bit complicated. Yes, it is. But as you see in the comments, at first it adds the official GPG key to the computer, to our computer, and then add the repository to the apt sources. In short, we are adding the GPG key, what stands for GNU Privacy Guard, and it is used to encrypt the communication and encrypt the packages we install on the computer. And apt source, it's the source of the our packages we can install on our computer. So after adding this to our sources, we can install Docker. That's all. Okay, so let's run this process. Just paste this code. Okay, I'm clearing the terminal with the command clear, just to show you only the installation process. Then paste it, hit enter, and wait a few seconds to finish the process of the installation. And the last step we have to do is to just run the last command. Just copy it and paste to the terminal. It will install the Docker Compose, and the whole necessary packages. We have one question prompted, so just accept it, and after a few seconds we have Docker installed. I have to say that each year the installation of the Docker becomes more easy, and last time when I installed it, it was I think 2 years ago when I switched the computer. It was a little bit more complicated. Now it's absolutely super easy. I thought it will be a little bit longer episode with this part of episode. As you see, we have Docker Compose installed in 3 pasted commands. So it's easy. As you see, on Ubuntu everything is easy. Now with docker -- version and the Docker Compose -- version, you will see that everything is installed correctly, and you should see something like this. As a final confirmation, we can run this command sudo docker run hello world, just like in the instruction. And you will see that Docker has downloaded the image and run it correctly. Everything looks good. As you see, installation of a Docker is a piece of cake. Using it is also easy, and I will show you step by step how to use it in our project. However, I will show you in a basic range. This podcast is not a podcast about Docker, and it's not about Docker Compose. It could be, but it's not. We will talk about the Nuxt 3 and the Django application and the programming in Nuxt 3 and the Django. So, using the Docker, it's an option for you. I recommend you to use Docker. It's convenient, and you will see it in the next episode how convenient it is to use Docker with the Django application. However, it's an option. Okay, if you still hesitate to use Docker or not, maybe think about it just like about driving the car. If you drive a car, you don't have to know the whole chemical processes that occur in the car engine when burning the gasoline. So the same with the Docker. If you don't feel the Docker yet, and you don't know it, and you have absolutely no knowledge about Docker and Docker Compose, you don't have to know it by heart. I will show you step by step how to use it, and maybe you will like it, or maybe not, but in my opinion, at least you should try. Okay, it's time to make a short summary of this episode. And as you remember, in the last episode, we have identified a few problems and prepared a solution for each one of them. Now it's time to check if the solutions works. So, the problem number one. Problem number one was the computer hanging out, and the expected results here was 0 unexpected hangouts of my computer while I am editing the video. And it's done. I have changed the way I work on the videos. I have splitted them to the smaller parts and shorten parts of this video, and at the end I am merging them into one. So it's done. Problem number two. Too long and ineffective lessons. And the solution here was to focus on one or two topics in one episode. And expected results, having video max 14 minutes long. It's partly done. I still have a little bit too long videos, but I think that's because about 60% of this episode I have done before this assumption, and it will be verified in the next episode. Problem number 3. Lost contact with my subscribers, and having shortened episodes and more often episodes. Expected results, 1 episode per 14 days. It's done. I will keep doing it, but it will be verified in the next episode. Problem number 4. Wider topic means more side notes. And the expected results here was to create the episodes with maximum 2 side notes per episode. It's done. In this episode we have, I think we have two side notes. I will keep doing it. And problem number 5. Too complicated videos means more work to do. And the expected results was to simplify the videos. 1 minute of video prepared in less than 60 minutes of work. Well, this is a little bit more complicated and we have to discuss it in more detail. As you see, I started to track every minute of video I created and check how much time it took me to prepare them. And at the beginning, as you see, it was absolutely very, very great. I mean, fantastic. Preparing over 15 minutes of video in 60 minutes of work, that's the result I want to have. But these results are absolutely unreliable because I have checked only the time of editing and preparing some small adjustments and not the whole process of creating video. So we can't use this tracking time. In this episode we have two main parts, the front-end part and the part about the Docker, I mean the let it call backend part of the video. And this backend part of the video was prepared from the scratch. I mean, I have had nothing for this part of video. So the next results you see here in this table are absolutely reliable, and we can use them to make some calculations. As you see, recording screencasts took me 19 minutes. I mean, that was the recording screencasts of installing the Docker and preparing the final Django application. Okay, maybe I shouldn't say that because it's in the next episode. Anyway, Next 15 minutes, that was the time I spent on making a video, this kind of video where I only talk and explain what is happening on the screencast. And the next for 140 minutes, that was the time to make a synchronization of screencasts and this talking head video, and small effects with this video. And it looks really good. I mean, I have prepared the video from the scratch, as I said. I have prepared about 9 minutes of video in 4.6 hour. That's okay. But we have to add some time to make final changes and the fixes of this video, and it took me about 15 minutes. And I have estimated about the 3 hours, I mean 180 minutes of work to making some additional work of this video, publishing it, check the subtitles, some this down-to-earth stuff connected with this project and this episode. I estimate it about 180 minutes. This means that preparing 9 minutes of video took me about 8.5 hours. Is it good or not? It's I think it's good enough for the beginning. We still feel the assumption that preparing 1 minute of video below 60 minutes of work, and we fulfill this assumption. That's okay, but we will see in the next episode. I will still keep tracking the time I spent on creating video. Next episode will be prepared, I think, I think mostly from the very beginning. I still have some parts already created, but I will see if I will use it. Maybe I will create from the scratch. And then we will check if I can make a 1 minute of video in 60 minutes of work max. You may now wonder why I did all of these calculations in this episode. First, they are important for me and for this project, but I did it also in some general purpose for this podcast. As you see, sometimes you can calculate time, sometimes you have to estimate it. And over time, with more projects you will finish, your estimations will be more precise. That's I guarantee. And it calls experience. I think time is one of the most important resource you have in your project. One of the most important resources you have to manage. And that's why if you are a project manager, you have to be very familiar with a watch. You have to measure how much time any activity you do or your team do in the project last. In this section, in this summary and project management section, let's call it like this, in the next few episodes, I will describe the resources you have in the project and resources you have to manage. As a project manager, you must be aware of each one of them, and you must take care on every area of the project you manage. So, that's all for today. We have done I think a lot of very interesting things today. We have prepared base components in the application, in the frontend application. We have prepared our environment for the backend application and for the Django application built in Docker. In the next episode, I plan to start with the Docker and with preparing the final Django application with Docker. Then we will make a connection and we will still play with our components, and I will make a connection between application and the backend. Of course, first we will continue with these props and sharing data between parent and the child component. Then we will use the connection with the backend. And at the end, we will check if our solutions works, and if I can, especially if I can make a video below 1 hour. I mean 1 minute of video below 1 hour. That's all for today. Have a good time and see you soon.